Stop. Do not scroll past this one. Of everything in your feed tonight, this is the message that was placed here on purpose, by the hand of God. At an hour he chose. For a soul he has been watching. So do not play with it. Do not half hear it and move on to the next thing, because that habit, the habit of treating sacred things casually, is the very thing we need to talk about tonight. Chosen one, the weight you feel as you read these words is not anxiety, and it is not dread. It is the seriousness of your own life finally catching up to you. You have spent years keeping everything at a comfortable distance, keeping God at a careful distance, keeping your own calling as a someday, a maybe, a thing you would get serious about eventually when the time was right. And tonight, the eventually has arrived, and it has your name on it. Here is the truth heaven sent me to give you plainly, without softening it, because softening it would be a kind of lie. Your life has not stalled because you lack favor. It has not stalled because you are unchosen, or forgotten, or cursed. It has stalled because you have been living half in, 1 foot committed and 1 foot hedging, half prayers offered with one eye on the exit, half yeses that you quietly took back the moment they cost you something, half surrender, always with a clause, always with a condition, always with a part of you held in reserve, just in case God did not come through. And a divided soul cannot move. This is not a punishment. It is a law, as fixed as gravity. A double mind is unstable in everything it touches. That instability you have felt for years, the sense that nothing quite holds, that every good thing eventually slips through your fingers, that you build and somehow never arrive, was never about your circumstances. It was about your divided heart. You have been trying to cross a river with 1 foot on each bank, and you have been wondering why you keep falling in. So tonight, a line is being drawn, and I need you to understand that it is not a someday line. It is not a line for when you feel ready, or when your life calms down, or when you have finally cleaned yourself up enough to deserve it. It is a now line. Tonight, in the next few minutes, while this message is still in front of you and the weight is still on you, you are going to be asked to do the one thing you have avoided your entire life. Choose a side. Stop hedging. End the division. And give the single full yes that everything you have ever wanted has been waiting on the other side of. Do not scroll away from that. I know the instinct. The moment a thing gets this serious, the scattered part of you wants to flee to something lighter, something that asks nothing of you. Resist it. Stay. Because the fleeing is the exact habit that has kept your life small, and tonight is the night it ends. Let me show you what half has cost you, because you have never added it up, and until you feel the true price, you will keep paying it. Think of everything you have started and not finished. Every dream you picked up with excitement and set down the moment it required real commitment. Every relationship you kept 1 foot out of, so that you would not be destroyed if it ended, and which therefore never fully lived. Every prayer you prayed while already preparing to be disappointed. Every door you approached and then talked yourself out of walking through because you could not be certain, and you refused to move without certainty. That is the museum of half, and you have been living in it so long you mistook it for a life. Here is what almost no one understands about the divided heart. It does not feel like rebellion. It feels like wisdom. It feels like caution, like being sensible, like protecting yourself. You did not withhold your full yes because you were wicked. You withheld it because somewhere along the way you learned that giving everything is dangerous, that full commitment is how you get hurt, that keeping a part of yourself in reserve is how you stay safe. And so you built a whole way of living around, never fully arriving anywhere. 1 foot in, always. An exit, always mapped. And you called it being careful when it was really being afraid. But the reserve you kept to protect yourself became the very thing that impoverished you, because life does not give its fullness to the half-committed. Not because God is stingy, but because fullness cannot flow into a vessel that is holding itself half-closed. The person who gives 90% and secretly keeps 10 in reserve does not get 90% of the reward. They often get almost nothing because the 10% they held back was the exact part that the breakthrough required. The reserve is not protection, it is the leak. It is where all your power has been quietly draining out for years while you congratulated yourself on being cautious. And I want to name the deepest layer of this because it is the one that will set you free. The reason you cannot simply decide to be all in, the reason willpower has failed you every time you resolve to finally commit, is that the division is not a choice you are making. It is a state you are living in. Your mind is literally divided against itself. One part of you reaches for God, for the dream, for the yes, and another part, just as strong, pulls back, argues, hedges, protects. And these two parts are at war every waking hour, so that even when you decide to commit, half of you immediately begins undoing the decision. That is why your resolutions never hold. You are not weak. You are at war with yourself, and a house at war with itself cannot stand, no matter how sincerely one half of it wants to. That war has a name and a mechanism, and it is not a moral failing, and it can actually end. And when it ends, being all in stops being a struggle you keep losing and becomes the natural state of a mind finally at peace with itself. That is where we are going. Do not leave. This is the most serious thing you will hear this year, and your entire life really does depend on you hearing it whole. Let me take you into the war itself, because you cannot end a war you cannot see. Right now, inside you, there are two forces. One is the part that heard this message and leaned in, the part that wants to finally go all in, that is tired of half, that aches to give the full yes. Feel that part. It is real. It is probably the truest thing in you. But there is a second force, and it woke up the moment the first one did. It is the part that is already looking for the exit, already whispering that this is too much, already reminding you of every time you committed and got hurt, already preparing the reasons you will use tomorrow to talk yourself back down to safe, comfortable half. That voice is not evil. It is frightened. But frightened or not, it has run your life for years, and it is running it right now. These two forces are not just feelings. They live in the physical structure of your mind, the one that reaches, that intuits, that trusts, that senses God, lives largely in one half of the brain. The one that calculates, that fears, that protects, that maps the exits, lives largely in the other. And in most people, these two halves are not working together. They are locked in opposition, firing against each other, so that every movement toward commitment triggers an equal movement toward retreat. This is why you feel most divided precisely when you try hardest to commit. The stronger the yes, the stronger the answering no, because the two halves escalate against each other. You have experienced this 1,000 times and never understood it. You decide, with your whole heart, to finally be all in, and within a day, sometimes within an hour, an equal and opposite force has risen up and undone you. You blamed your discipline. You blamed your faith. It was neither. It was two halves of one mind at war. And here is the mercy in understanding this. If the division were a moral failing, the only cure would be to try harder, and you have already proven that trying harder does not work. But it is not a moral failing. It is a synchronization problem. The two halves are out of sync, and that lack of sync is the whole disease, which means the cure is not more effort, more guilt, more resolutions you will break. The cure is synchronization, getting the two halves to stop fighting and start moving as one. When that happens, something almost unbelievable occurs. The war stops. The reaching part and the protecting part come into alignment. And for the first time, the yes does not trigger an answering no. You can commit and stay committed because there is no longer a second half of you working through the night to undo the decision. Being all in stops being a battle. It becomes rest. But before I show you how the synchronization happens, I have to make sure you understand the stakes, because the title said your entire life depends on this now, and I did not choose those words lightly. Every life reaches a small number of genuine crossroads. Most days do not matter much. You could live them 100 different ways and end up in roughly the same place. But scattered through every life are a few real hinges, a few moments where a single decision permanently changes the trajectory of everything that follows. And the tragedy is that the divided heart cannot recognize these moments when they come, because it is too busy hedging to notice that this one is different. You have already missed some of these hinges. I am not saying that to wound you. I am saying it because you already know it is true, and naming it is how we stop the pattern. There were moments that asked for your whole yes, and you gave them half, and they passed, and your life quietly bent in a lesser direction, and you have been living in the lesser direction ever since, wondering how you got here. That is what half does. It does not usually cause dramatic disasters. It causes a slow, steady drift into a smaller life than the one you were made for. And here is why tonight is different. Tonight you have been shown the mechanism. For the first time, you are not just being told to commit. You are being shown why you could not commit and what actually ends the division. That knowledge changes the nature of this crossroads, because now, when the moment asks for your whole yes, you will not be helplessly divided. You will have a way to become whole. And a whole person can say yes and mean it and keep it. That is a power you have never had before, and it arrives tonight at a hinge, which is not an accident. So let me say it as plainly as I can, with no imagery, so there is no possible confusion about what I am telling you. Your life has been stuck because you are internally divided. One half reaching and one half retreating. And a divided mind cannot commit, cannot hold, cannot arrive. The instability in your circumstances is a mirror of the instability in your mind. The solution is not to try harder to be devoted. It is to end the internal war by bringing the two halves of your mind into synchronization, so that devotion becomes whole and effortless instead of divided and exhausting. And the only question that matters now is this. You can see the war. You can see why every past resolution failed. So how do you actually make the two halves stop fighting tonight, in time to give the yes your life is waiting for? There is an answer, and it is more within your reach than you dare to hope. Let me show you who you become when the war ends. Because you have lived divided so long, you may not even remember that wholeness is possible. Picture a version of you with no exit mapped, not reckless, but settled. A person who decides and then simply stays decided, without the exhausting nightly work of relitigating every commitment. Feel how much lighter that person is. Half your energy, your whole life, has gone into maintaining the division, running both the yes and the no at once, and it has drained you in ways you blamed on everything else. When the war ends, that energy comes home, and it is enormous. Picture that whole version of you praying, not with one eye on the exit, not already bracing for silence, but fully present, fully expectant, holding nothing in reserve. Prayer changes completely when the one praying is undivided. Things begin to move, not because God suddenly started listening, but because, for the first time, you are actually asking with your whole self instead of a hedged fraction of it. Picture that version of you facing the next real crossroads. The hinge comes. It asks for everything. And instead of freezing, instead of the familiar paralysis of the divided heart, you feel a strange new steadiness, and you step cleanly, wholly, and you keep stepping because there is no second half of you working to pull you back. That single undivided step will change the direction of your entire life, and it is available to a whole person in a way it never is to a divided one. That person is not a fantasy and not a stranger. That is you on the other side of the war. And the war can end faster than you believe. Because it is not a matter of becoming a better person through years of struggle. It is a matter of synchronizing what is currently at odds. Let me tell you how that was discovered, because it did not come from a sermon. It came from science that ended up proving what the sacred texts always warned. Decades ago, a researcher named Dr. Roger Sperry did work on the human brain so significant it earned the Nobel Prize. What he proved is the very thing we have been describing. The two halves of the brain function almost as two separate minds, each with its own way of seeing, and in most people they are not unified. They are divided, often pulling in opposite directions. The ancient warning about the double mind was not poetry. It was an accurate description of how the unsynchronized brain actually operates. The instability is real, and it is measurable, and it has kept countless souls from ever committing to anything with their whole heart. And here is the discovery that changes everything. When those two halves are brought into synchronization, the division does not merely lessen, it resolves. The internal war quiets. People describe a wholeness, a singleness of mind, a capacity to decide and to stay decided that they had never known. In other words, synchronization produces exactly the undivided heart that every spiritual tradition begged people to have and never fully explained how to reach. Let me name something you have felt but never had words for, because naming it will loosen its grip. There is a particular exhaustion that only divided people know. It is not the clean tiredness of hard work. It is the strange, bone-deep fatigue of a person who is running two opposite programs at once, all day, every day. The yes and the no, firing together, cancelling each other out, burning enormous energy and producing almost no movement. You have felt this. You end days having done very little and yet feel utterly drained, and you cannot understand why. This is why. Half of your fuel has been spent fighting the other half. The division is not just costing you your breakthroughs. It is costing you your very energy, hour by hour, in a war you did not even know you were fighting. And when the war ends, that is the first thing people notice. Before any of the outer changes, the exhaustion lifts. Not because their life got easier, but because they stopped burning themselves as fuel in an internal conflict. The energy that was consumed by the division comes home, and it is more than you can imagine, because you have never once in your adult life had access to all of it at the same time. Imagine what you could give to your calling if you were no longer secretly spending half your strength arguing with yourself. That is not a small upgrade. That is a different life, powered by a whole person instead of a house divided. Now I have to be honest with you about why this matters so urgently tonight, and not tomorrow, and not someday. Every day you remain divided, the division deepens. The war does not stay the same size. The exit you keep mapping gets easier to take. The reserve you keep holding back gets more familiar, more automatic, until half stops feeling like a compromise and starts feeling like simply who you are. This is how people end up, decades later, having never once given their whole heart to anything and no longer even remembering that they could have. The divided heart is not stable, it erodes. It takes a little more of you each year. So when I say your entire life depends on this now, I am not being dramatic for effect. I mean that there is a real cost to postponing this decision one more season, and the cost is another layer of the drift, another set of hinges missed, another year lived at a fraction of your capacity. The person who says, "I will get serious about this later," has already made a decision. They have decided to stay divided a while longer, and later has a way of never arriving. But hear the other side, because this is not a message of fear. The very same law works in your favor the moment you turn. The day the war ends, the healing does not stay the same size either. It compounds. Wholeness builds on wholeness. The first, undivided yes, makes the second one easier, and the 10th becomes your nature. So the urgency is not a threat hanging over you. It is an invitation to start the compounding now, instead of losing one more year to the erosion. And I want to speak directly to your identity for a moment, chosen one, because this is the heart of it. You were never meant to be a divided person. That is not your true nature. The division was learned, layered on by old wounds and old fears, a survival strategy from a younger you who did not yet know that holding back was costing more than it saved. Underneath all of it, the real you is whole, single-hearted, made to give everything and hold nothing in reserve. That is who you were before the world taught you to hedge, and that is who you become again when the war finally ends. So this is not about becoming someone new. It is about the undivided one you have always been underneath finally being set free from the war. The seriousness you feel tonight is that true self recognizing its moment. Do not run from it. It is the most real thing in you, calling you home. Here is what most messages like this never tell you, and without it, everything I have said tonight will remain a beautiful idea you cannot live. You can agree with every word of this. You can want wholeness with all the sincerity you possess, and you can still wake tomorrow just as divided as you are tonight, because insight alone does not end the war. The two halves do not synchronize because you finally understood that they should. Understanding is not the same as healing. If it were, you would already be whole, because part of you has known this for years. The gap between knowing you should be all in and actually being all in is the exact gap that has defined your whole life. And that gap does not close through willpower. It closes through synchronization. So the question is not whether you believe this. The question is what actually brings the two halves of a divided mind into alignment, in real life, in a body, this week, so that the yes you give tonight is still standing tomorrow and next month and next year. Because a yes that collapses by morning is just one more entry in the museum of half. You do not need another sincere resolution. You need the war to actually end. You know the mechanism now. You know the division is physical, not moral. You know the cure is synchronization, not effort. The only thing left is the how. And the how is more accessible than the divided part of you wants you to believe, because that part is already looking for a reason to call this impossible and flee back to safe. Do not let it. Stay for the answer. It is simple and it is real, and it is within your reach tonight. For most of history, the only way to synchronize a divided mind was decades of disciplined practice. The contemplatives who achieved true singleness of heart gave their whole lives to it, years in silence, and even then, only some arrived. That road is real, but it is long, and the erosion we spoke of does not wait years for you to finish. But a faster door was opened, and it began in a laboratory. A neurologist in New York City named Dr. Daniel Barone took the discovery of Sperry and built something practical from it for people who need the war to end now and not in 20 years. He and his colleagues developed a targeted sequence of sound, an 8-minute auditory track built on what they call neural sync technology, designed to gently guide the two divided halves of the brain back into synchronization. They call the result whole brain activation. And the simplicity of it is almost offensive to a mind that believes wholeness must be earned through suffering. You put on headphones, you close your eyes, and for 8 minutes you do nothing. You do not strive. You do not fight the division by force. The sequence does the synchronizing for you beneath your awareness, in the exact place the war has been raging. 8 minutes a day. That is the practice. It is called the genius switch. And it is the most direct path I have found to the undivided heart, the sacred texts always called for. Let me speak plainly about how to have it, for the ones in whom something has been quietly rising this whole time. The colleagues who first encountered this work called it an incredible value at $500. When it opened to the public, it was listed at $49. But on the page where it is kept, and only there, it is held right now at $39. $39 to end a war that has cost you your whole life. And it carries a promise that removes every risk from your side. A 100% ironclad money-back guarantee, no matter how many times you have listened. If the division does not quiet, you ask, and every dollar returns. The only one who carries any risk here is the one offering it. Never you. There are 4 gifts included as well, freely at that price. A guided visualization from a top-rated creator. A simple guide that quietly saves most households more than $100 a month. A manifestation text more than a century old, the root of nearly every modern technique, and a printed set of the 5 habits that shape a life. But do not let the gifts distract you. The wholeness is the gift. Everything else is wrapping. And hear this, because it matters. It is kept only on the official page, not on the large marketplaces, not on the streaming services. If something elsewhere claims to be this, it is not the same thing, and a counterfeit at the hinge of your whole life is a cruelty you cannot afford. Go to the one true source, or go nowhere. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. If your spirit resonates, and only if it does, it will be there. I will not push you. A soul standing at a crossroads, this serious does not need to be pushed. You already know. Now let me come back to you, because the tool is only a doorway, and what matters is the decision you make on the other side of it. And I can feel the objections rising. So let me meet them before they carry you back to half. The first objection says, I have committed before and failed, so why would this time be different? Hear the answer carefully. Every time you committed before, you committed as a divided person, which means half of you was undoing it from the start. Of course it failed. It was never a fair fight. This time is different not because you will try harder, but because you can address the division itself instead of white-knuckling against it. You are not being asked to repeat the thing that failed. You are being shown why it failed and given a way past it. The second objection is the deep one, and it whispers, what if I go all in and God does not come through? What if I give my whole yes and get hurt? This is the fear underneath every hedge you have ever made. So, let me speak to it directly. The reserve you kept to protect yourself from that pain has not protected you. It has only guaranteed a smaller, sadder version of the very loss you feared, spread out over years instead of felt all at once. Half did not spare you pain. It just gave you a duller, longer ache. Wholeness risks more, yes, but only wholeness can actually receive. You cannot be filled with your hands half closed, no matter how safe the closing feels. The third objection says, is this not reckless? Is caution not wise? And here is the truth. There is a wise caution, and there is a fearful hedging that wears the mask of wisdom, and you have confused the two your whole life. While our caution counts the cost, and then commits fully to the worthy thing. Fearful hedging never commits to anything, and calls its paralysis prudence. You do not need to become reckless. You need to stop letting fear impersonate wisdom and give your whole heart to what is actually worth it. That is not recklessness. That is the courage you were made for. So before we seal this, do one thing and let it be your first undivided act. Do not just nod and scroll away, because scrolling away half-moved is the exact pattern we are ending tonight. Instead, write 3 words below. Write, I am all in. Not your whole story, just those 3 words. As a line drawn, a flag planted, a yes given in the open, where the divided part of you cannot quietly take it back. 3 words, I am all in, and then let us seal it together. Let me speak to the grief that may be surfacing, because understanding all of this often brings a specific sorrow, and I do not want it to become despair. It is the grief of the years, the realization of how long you have been divided, how much the reserve has cost, how many hinges you met with half a heart and lost. That grief is honest, and I will not rush you past it, but I will tell you what it is for. It is not there to condemn you. It is there to make sure you never go back. Let the ache of the wasted years become the fierce resolve that guards your new wholeness when the old division tries to return. And hear this mercy. The years were not entirely lost, because they taught you, in the hardest possible way, the true price of half. You now know, in your bones, what hedging costs, and that knowledge is exactly what will hold you to the whole yes when it gets difficult. The person who has never paid the price of division commits lightly and wavers easily. But you have paid it for years, and that hard tuition is now yours to spend on a wholeness you will not casually surrender. Heaven wastes nothing, not even your longest detour. Even the Museum of Half becomes the reason you finally choose whole and never look back. Before this message ends, I'm going to speak something over your life, over the decision you are making right now. But first, I need to make this real and immediate, because a decision that stays abstract never survives contact with tomorrow. There is a specific area of your life where you have been living half in. You know exactly what it is. It rose in your mind the moment I started speaking tonight. A calling you keep almost pursuing. A surrender you keep almost making. A relationship, a path, a work, a step toward God that you have circled for years with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That is where the line is being drawn tonight. Not in general. There. So bring it to mind now, clearly. The exact place you have been hedging. And understand that heaven is not asking you to figure out the whole road tonight. It is asking for one thing only, the undivided yes. The willingness to take your foot off the exit and plant both feet on the path. You do not have to see where it leads. You only have to stop keeping half of yourself in reserve against it. That is the entire decision. And it is available to you in this exact moment. I know the divided part of you is already negotiating, already saying, later, when I am sure, when I feel ready, when the conditions are right. But you will never feel ready, because readiness on the far side of certainty is the oldest trick the fearful half uses to keep you forever in the waiting room of your own life. Certainty is not the price of commitment. Commitment is the price of certainty. You give the whole yes first, in the dark, without guarantees, and the ground appears under your foot as you step. That is how it has always worked for every whole-hearted person who ever lived. This is the hinge, right here, not someday. The seriousness you have felt this entire message was your own life telling you that this moment matters more than the 1,000 ordinary ones around it. Do not let it pass the way you have let the others pass. Give the yes. Plant both feet, end the war, and let me now speak over you the words meant to seal an undivided heart. Let me make this real with 2 people so you can see clearly which one you have been and which one you are being called to become. Two people receive the same calling, feel the same pull toward the same worthy path. The first one loves it, believes in it, speaks about it with real passion, but they never fully commit. They keep the day job as a permanent backup, not for a season but forever. They keep one eye always on the exit. They give it their evenings but never their whole heart. And because a part of them is always held in reserve, the calling never gets the full weight it needed to break through. Years pass. The passion slowly cools into regret. And they end up telling people, with a sad smile, that it just was not meant to be. But it was not that it was not meant to be. It was that they were never all the way in. The second person feels the identical pull and is just as afraid and has just as much to lose. But at some point, they stop hedging. They take their foot off the exit. They commit fully, without the guarantee, without the certainty, with their heart fully exposed. And here is what happens, and it happens almost every time. The full commitment itself begins to generate what the half commitment never could. Doors that only open to the wholehearted begin to open. Their own undivided energy, no longer split between yes and no, becomes a force. And the very thing that seemed impossible to the divided version of them becomes, step by undivided step, their actual life. Same calling, same fear, same God. One held part of themselves back and slowly lost everything to caution. One gave their whole heart and watched the ground appear beneath each step. The only difference was the reserve. One kept it, one let it go. You have been the first person. In the area you brought to mind a moment ago, you have been the one with one eye on the exit, and it has cost you more than you let yourself feel. Tonight, you are being handed the chance to become the second, not through more effort, through wholeness, through finally ending the war that made the reserve feel necessary in the first place. The undivided life is not for special people born without fear. It is for ordinary, frightened people who found a way to stop being divided, and that way is now in your hands. Let me give you something to hold for tomorrow morning, because the divided heart does its most dangerous work in the first hour after a decision, when the yes is still new and the old habit is strongest. When you wake, the fearful half will already be awake before you, rehearsing its case, reminding you of every reason to slide back to safe. Expect it. Do not be alarmed by it. Its return does not mean your decision failed. It means you are human, and the old pattern is not going to surrender its territory without one more argument. So the moment you wake, before the negotiation gets going, take your quiet minutes and return to wholeness first. Sync the two halves before the day divides them again. Let the first act of your day be the reclaiming of the single heart you chose tonight. Do this once, and the day belongs to your whole self. Do it for a week, and the old division starts to lose its grip. Do it for a season, and you will look back and realize that the war which ran your entire life has quietly ended, not in one dramatic battle, but in 100 small mornings where you chose wholeness before the fear could choose for you. That is how a divided life becomes an undivided one, not all at once, but surely, morning by morning, yes by kept yes, until whole is simply who you are. So become still now, wherever you are. Let the negotiating stop. Let the exit go, just for these few minutes. Let both feet come to rest on the ground of your own life. We are going to seal this together. Father, we come to you whole tonight, or as whole as we know how to be, and we ask you to finish the wholeness we cannot finish ourselves. We are tired of half. We are tired of the war. We are tired of the exhausting work of keeping one foot out of every good thing you ever offered us. We lay the reserve down. We take our eye off the exit. We give you not a hedged fraction of ourselves, but the whole of it, the frightened parts and the reaching parts together. And now we release. We release the fear that made us hedge. Let it fall. We release the old wounds that taught us holding back was safety. Let them fall. We release the exit we have kept mapped our whole lives, the escape route from every commitment. Let it fall. We release the war between the two halves of our own mind, and we ask for the peace of a single heart. Let it all fall into your hands where it belongs, and let wholeness rise in the space it leaves behind. And in the stillness that remains, let something true rise, and do not say it aloud, just let it become true in you. I am not divided. I am becoming whole. I am not half in. I am all in. I have taken my foot off the exit, and I am standing with my whole weight on the path. I hold nothing in reserve, because the reserve was never protection. It was the leak. I am single-hearted. I am undivided. I give my whole yes, and I do not take it back. Hold that. Let it settle into the deep place where the war used to be. You are not the divided, hedging, exit-mapping person who opened this message. In these few minutes, something has shifted, and if you let it stand, it will change the trajectory of everything ahead. Now let me speak over the specific decision you are making tonight, over the exact area you brought to mind. May the reserve you laid down stay down. May the exit you released stay closed. May you wake tomorrow and find, to your own surprise, that the yes you gave tonight is still standing, because it was not the yes of a divided person straining, but the yes of a heart being made whole. May doors that only open to the wholehearted begin to open for you. And may you feel, for the first time in your life, the strange, deep rest of a soul that has stopped fighting itself. Chosen one, gather the whole of it now into one truth you can carry out of here. Your life did not stall because you were unchosen. It stalled because you were divided. And the division was never a moral failing you should have overcome by trying harder. It was a war between two halves of your own mind that no amount of willpower could win. Tonight, you have been shown the war, and shown the way it ends, and given the chance to become whole. That changes everything, because a whole person can give a yes and keep it, and a kept yes is how an entire life finally turns. So do not treat this like the 1,000 messages you have consumed and forgotten. Do not play with it. It was too serious for that, and so is your life. Take the decision you made tonight and guard it. When the divided part of you wakes tomorrow and begins its old negotiations, remember this hour and hold your ground. You are not divided anymore. You are becoming whole. Live like it, starting now. And if the way to synchronize the two halves that we spoke of is meant for you, you will know, and it will be there in the description and the pinned comment when you are ready, and 8 quiet minutes a day can end a war that has run your whole life. But whatever tool you use, do not go back to half. You have felt, tonight, what wholeness could be. Do not trade it back for the safety that was never safe. And remember the 3 words. Not your whole story spilled out. Just the 3 words below, I am all in, so that heaven knows you received this, and so that you plant your flag in the open where the fearful half cannot quietly pull it back down. 3 words. And then close the app and go live the first undivided day of your life. Let me leave you with this, because it is the deepest thing I know about a decision like the one you have made tonight. The whole yes is never given because the fear is gone. It is given while the fear is still there. Courage is not the absence of the trembling. It is planting both feet on the path while still trembling and discovering that the ground holds. You do not have to wait for the fear to leave before you commit. You commit with the fear still present, and you watch the fear slowly lose its authority over a life that has stopped obeying it. That is what changes now. Not that you will never feel afraid again, but that fear will no longer get the final vote. The divided heart let fear rule, because fear held half of you hostage. The whole heart feels the fear and moves anyway because there is no longer a hidden half agreeing with it. That is freedom, not fearlessness, wholeness in the presence of fear. And it is yours, starting tonight, in the exact area you have avoided for years. The war is ending, the reserve is laid down, the exit is closed, both feet are on the path. And the yes you have withheld your entire life has finally been given. In the open, where it will stand. Your life was waiting on the other side of that yes. Now go and meet it. Go whole. Go undivided. Go all in. And so it is.